Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary, it's time for the podcaster who's here to ease you into bedtime. You know, like the L train says, but I'm here to make every evening easy like Sunday morning. By, easing, overusing words, that's easy for me. Oh, so easy. But anyway, it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. And if you're a regular listener, if I could just have your attention for the next few minutes, this is like a celebratory episode, right? I don't know when this is coming out, actually, as I'm recording it. But this is episode in celebration of 800 episodes. So in the general vicinity of 800 episodes. And you're the reason I've been able to keep the show going. Those of you that spread the word, those of you that support the show on Patreon, those of you that send me your kindness and support the sponsors, like these sponsors coming up, because this is how we keep the show free for everybody. Hey, are you a Sleep With Me podcast patron, or have you been one in the past? Because we got a really, really exciting announcement. Or if you're on the fence, you've been thinking about it, but you said, well, what's in it for me? Or, you just kind of say, well, I keep putting it off, Scoots. Well, don't put it off any longer, because starting September 15th, you'll start to hear about this. We're going to do, because the patrons, the show reached 800 episodes and over 100 million downloads recently. And we would not have been able to do that as a free podcast without the patrons who support the show. And so we're going to do a time capsule. And if you've ever been a patron from the beginning, whether you signed up and you're no longer a patron or you're just about to become one, you're going to get it to be a part of this time capsule. And if you supported the show by other means, don't worry, you'll hear about other ways to sign up for it. But really, the patrons have carried the show on their backs. I wouldn't have been able to do it, or I would have had to put the podcast as part of some service without the support of the patrons. And the reason people become patrons is, they're part of a community that keeps the podcast free for everybody. And I know they feel a lot of pride. You should if you're a patron and you're listening. And so this time capsule is going to be symbolic of all the people that made these 800 episodes possible, that made these hundreds of millions of downloads possible. And if that sounds interesting to you and you want to sign up, just go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. You could still be a part of it. Not only that, you get your own RSS feed with ad-free episodes and story-only episodes starting at $5, and then $10 and up patrons. And those are full episodes. The only thing they're missing is the ads. And then $10 up patrons just get a couple all-intro episodes every month. So if you like the all-intro episodes, they get an all-night episode. They get story-only episodes. You can find out more at sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron, but you just pay attention because none of this wouldn't have been possible. Because none of this would have been possible without your support. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for making this podcast possible. It's time for the Sleepy Supporter Zone, where I thank the listeners who keep the podcast free for everybody. I want to thank Alyssa L. and Brianna, who both got themselves some Brooklinen sheets. Alyssa also got a set of Sleep With Me pants over at the Sleep With Me podcast store. I just got back in town to enjoy my Brooklinen sheets, and you can find out about Brooklinen and all our other sponsors at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors. See what's on there. Be like Alyssa. Be like Brianna. Support the show. Keep it free for everybody. And then let me know about it so I can thank you on the air. And that's the end of the Sleepy Supporter Zone. Oh, Mr. Bard, I don't know if you heard, this episode's coming out, I'm recording it ahead of time, but it's coming out somewhere near episode 800. Could be episode 800. And I know I'm so appreciative of everybody who's worked so hard to keep the show going. Is there a couple people we could give credit to? Mystery Bard, a.k.a. Jonathan Mann. That's MYSTERYBARD at song.jonathanmann.net. Jonathan?
Chris Posty Poster Son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes. Carole W. the legend. Also edits episodes. Kenny, Scotty, and Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the mystery bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do come answers. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance.
Thank you, Mystery Bart. So, yeah, thanks to everybody that helps out on the show. Thank you for spreading the word. That is really how the show's grown. Like when we started the show, there was literally a handful of listeners, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it slowly became, 10 or 11. And that was just from people like you sharing the word, like, spreading it in natural conversation. So appreciate all that. If you have a chance to spread the word, that's a huge, huge way to help the show. If you could share it with a few people, that'd be great. And I believe that's it. What do you say? We get on with the show. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, so things you're, things on your mind keeping you up, things with your body or your feelings. It could be something else, a lot of different things, but whatever it is, I'd like to help, right? I'm going to have this safe place carved out here, set aside. If you like, I could put a bow on it, if you like it, I better put a bow on it. As like Beyonce never sang that, but if I was singing a song for Beyonce where Beyonce shopped, and I was like the assistant to the shopkeep, I would say if she likes it, you better put a bow on it. If you like bows, Beyonce, I don't know what your feeling on bows is, because we could also put a shimmer on it. We could put we could mark it with a B if you like. Not like we could, I could put some glitter on it. I could put a sheen on it. I could put some matte on it. If you like it. Well, maybe, you like it as it is. Thank you, Beyonce. I've never had, oh boy, man, I'm almost speechless. That my brain was telling me that was my imagination and not the real Beyonce. Okay, glad to clear that up. I'm still feeling a little, I'm blushing. I don't know if you can feel that. But I was just saying, if this safe place, if you were to like it, I could put a bow on it. I could even put a ring on it. On a safe place, I would say, where would I put a ring? I put a ring on it. I guess, yeah, like I'd say, okay, it's right over there. If you need a ring, I could put a ring around it, too. I could put a ring, you say, well, I prefer, I'd prefer to, I can get in a fetal position in a ring. I'd say, oh boy, yeah, that's a good idea. So a comfort, but I'm going to give you as much space as you need. I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. Imaginary celebrity appearances. I guess I didn't think that this is like the episode in celebration of around when we got to 800, since I'm recording this ahead of time, saying, well, this is right about 800. We'd have imaginary celebrity appearances. We have had, I would say, like, royalty is Beyonce and Jay-Z to me. In the U.S., you'd say, okay, yeah, I would agree with that. And also artistically, both of them are influences on me, or more inspirations. I guess this is a sidetrack, but I guess I could be a little bit indulgent since we're in the presence of her greatness. One day I would like to do some unrelated Sleep With Me completed season of a podcast, a Beyonce drop. No one knows I'm working on it. No one knows it's complete. And one day that podcast is just there. This isn't a tease, though. That's not happening right now. But that is just a dream of mine. And so anyway, what am I going to do though? I'm here to keep you company is really the thing. if you can't sleep, like I said earlier. So if you're new, I'm glad you're here. This is like, this will be the most mundane celebration you've ever heard. Because really, I'm just celebrating you, the listener. And the way I celebrate is keep putting you to, keep up the work, Scoots. Keep up that lulling, soothing tones and pointless meanders. And I would say consider it done. That's what I'm here to do. Now, if you're new, you might say, what do you do here? Or how does this work? And I say, well, slowly it works. Eventually, I mean, ideally, really, the podcast, you don't even notice it works. You're just asleep and then you wake up the next day. But if you're new, let me explain a couple of things. It is something that you kind of got to let drift in one ear and drift out the other, or look at it in an out of focus way, and just kind of see how it goes. A lot of listeners, I mean, over 90% that are regular listeners say, hey, it took 2 or 3 tries for me to get into the show or start falling asleep. And that's not like a sales pitch. It's just kind of see how it goes and see if it works. If you're skeptical or you're like, what is this? Or what, I don't understand. And I say, that's totally natural, totally normal. Why wouldn't you be? Especially you say, okay, I thought this was a sleep podcast and you're talking about Beyonce. And they say, okay, well, it's the sleepy side. I mean, the sleepy side of Beyonce, which is, tangents kind of just, like a moving on from it. You're right. It's okay. Oh, structurally. So if you're new, try to only barely pay attention. That's actually one of the things like a rule, or one of the principles of the podcast is the podcast you don't need to listen to. You can kind of listen. You could barely listen. You could generally listen. You could keep it as background noise. You could listen to it at a muffle. Or you could totally listen. You could follow along. Whatever works for you. And people use it, regular listeners use it in all those ways, I think. There's also no pressure to fall asleep. Like, I'm going to be here for about an hour. So you just drift off at your leisure. Like, there's no pressure to listen. There's no pressure to fall asleep. I mean, I make a show to keep you company and to take your mind off stuff as you fall asleep. And then if you can't sleep, or you're waking up or whatever, I'm here to the end. I'm here to keep you company to the very end. So just in case, I'm going to be here. Now, structurally, what to expect if you're new. Show starts off with a few minutes of business, and that's kind of more applicable to regular listeners because it's really how we just keep the show free and out on a regular basis. So if you're new, thanks for sticking through that. It's more pointed towards regular listeners. And then there's an intro. Now, the intro is kind of a show within a show, I say, because it's really part of it's like 15 minutes long, which is long for an intro, but not totally because the episodes are about an hour. So it's like 25% of the episode. And what happens during the intro is I try to explain what the podcast is, and don't successfully necessarily always never do that. And it's part of like an idea around the podcast of like a slow journey towards bedtime, a wind down, a comforting descent, or, getting comfortable and getting settled in, or being part of your bedtime routine. If the podcast is your cup of tea. You'd say, okay, like I start brushing my teeth, I brush my hair, use the Furminator on my pets, or I don't know if you have multiple pets, do you have multiple Furminators? That's like a thing to brush my dog's hair. I have one of those. And what was I saying? What was I talking about? So that's the intro. It's kind of like a rambling, I wouldn't say you're incoherent, but, I just go on and off topic, friendly setup to ease you into bedtime. Now, you can skip ahead. Like, if you're like, well, I'm more of a story person, I don't need the intro. Just go ahead and start the show. Well, there's 2 choices, really. You could start the show around 18 or 20 minutes. Or if you support the show on Patreon, at $5, you get 2 story-only episodes a week, and at $10, you get usually 3. depending on the week. So that's like a way to get a lot of story content because that goes all the way back. So free option and an option to support the show. And so that's the intro, though. Like, also some people listen to the intro to relax or during the bath or whatever. So that's another way, or the show. So it's just another use case. So it's the intro. Then there'll be a story. Tonight there'll be like a questions that come up about the show commonly. I don't know if I've ever done that as a podcast episode. But people will say, Scooch, are your legs crossed when you record? And I would say, well, right the second they are crossed, but not always. And so kind of that's what the episode will be like. So a little bit different. And just do something to do right around the 800th episode to kind of, I don't know, ground, celebrate, I guess, in a way that also still puts people to sleep, but answers questions. And, if you like this episode, believe me, I'll put a bow on it. It's already got a bow. Put a ring on it, whatever you wish. I mean, if Beyonce liked this episode, I would just name it the Beyonce episode, even though it has, just in your honor. And you probably say, well, I prefer, and I'd say, well, I could name it something else that's like, Jay-Z said, don't do that. Okay, no problem. Like I could say, you're right, I won't name it that. I mean, I might now that I thought of it. What if I called it, would you two be comfortable with me calling Sleep With Me? It's the Beyonce of sleep podcasts. Oh, no, you consider another Okay, well, wow. I guess I don't know, what about the Jay-Z of, what about the H to the Izzo of sleep, sleep is, no. Oh, okay, great. Well, I mean, you two, I can see why the two of you are so successful because you use soft power, even in our negotiations here, you're using soft power in a way to continue to make your side. What about something else? I could think of do you two have any secret pet names you would share with me? That I could just name the episode. Then it would be a code. You'd know, do you mind if I call you B and J? No, of course not, because I didn't realize, I didn't even see how that went together. That was an accident. I really didn't. Okay, maybe I should move on. You're right. Thank you for continuing to use your influence in a way that's so comforting but also establishing, yes, okay. You're right. Okay, well, it's just I've never had I've had imaginary famous people on, but, I mean, not to butter the two of you up. I mean, you're not even A-list celebrities. You're like platinum. They say, well, there's the A-list celebrities. I would say is there such thing as a platinum list? You'd say, well, no, there isn't. I say, well, there is, because that's where I'd put the two of you. And if you like that, I'll put a bow on. Believe me, I'll put a bow. I'll make that in a ring. And I'll put it on the inside of the ring. Okay, no, I didn't mean it that and then I'll put a bow on it for both of you. I'll make two, don't worry. Well, thanks for coming to the 800th episode. It was really around 800-ish. Sometimes I don't get to highlight episodes out to thank you, thanks. Good meeting you both. Oh, maybe I should do Sleep With Me Unplugged. Well, that's you must have known how many times I listened to that. That was a joke. Okay, well, that was kind of a funny joke. Thank you. Anyway, goodbye. Or will we be seeing one another again? Maybe. I guess it's my imagination. You're right. Don't forget to get your hands up, Okay, bye. To say goodbye. Okay, thanks. Sorry about that, listeners. I just want to, when you're in the presence of greatness, you got to roll with it, right? Lean in. And really, I learned a lot there. Did you just notice how they were able to say, well, no, we prefer you do this and that. So I really respect that. What I really respect is that you keep coming back to this show, or you're new and you let down your guard. You said, let me give this show a try. And I work very hard at the show because I've been there. I believe you do deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And that I'm here to help the only way I can, which is to kind of take your mind off stuff and keep you company. Maybe put like something resembling a smile on your face. So I'm glad you're here. Work very hard. And I strive to help you fall asleep. Thanks for coming by. And here's a couple of ways we keep the show going. Hey, everybody. I just wanted to let you know, if you're a patron, you've been a patron in the past, or you're on the fence, you've been waiting to sign up for, you just keep sleeping and you say, well, I'm going to sign up tomorrow. Now's the time to sign up. We're doing what is that thing called? Time capsule. I thought it was a time machine. That's what I almost said. We're doing a time capsule with all the names of all the patrons who've supported the show. It is opt-in, so don't worry if you don't want to be a part of it. To celebrate 800 episodes, over 100 million downloads that your support made possible. The whole idea of value for value is like a community garden. I use that as an analogy because, like while I'm there tending things, the water, the seeds, all the supplies the patrons make possible. And if you support the show by sponsors or spreading the word, you'll get a chance to participate too. So pay attention for those updates. But if you've been thinking about becoming a patron, getting those ad-free episodes, if you want to do it for that, or you just get value out of the show and you rely on it, or you listen to it on a regular basis and you say, hey, I want to give some value back for the work that goes into the show. And I like to know it's there for me and everybody else to listen to it for free. Go ahead and sign up, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. Starting at $5 a month, you get full ad-free episodes. And then at $20 or more a month, there's a lot of other cool stuff. So check it out, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. Sign up today and get in on this time, not a time machine. I can't promise that. But get your name on this get your name in this time capsule. So somewhere in the future, people will say, wow, all those people, now that Sleep With Me has become, like something that's just, I don't know how it would work in the future, to be honest. The people in the future will know that, but we don't, around here, we don't worry about the future, right? We're making a time capsule in the present for the future because of all the support I've gotten, really. And I'm greatly, greatly appreciative of that. And there's still a chance to sign up, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. Thanks. All right. Hey, everybody. So tonight is a little bit different of a show. It's, I don't know why I've never done this show before and why it took me so long, or maybe say, Scoots, you have, episode 298. Because I've done these online, but I figured I'd do like an AMA of common questions that come up around the podcast as a bit of a bedtime story. And use that to soothe you off to bedtime. So I don't know I hope you like that. I hope it works for you. And I think it will. And then maybe I could also edit this up and actually put those questions up on the website. So I quizzed the patrons, the people that support the show, hope to keep it going with some questions. And then I also have a bunch of historical AMAs we've done. Also, just in case, to answer a question right away, AMA stands for Ask Me Anything, kind of like a Q&A, and more it actually is an AMA, because with this one, I'm trying to stay focused just on the podcast. But before we get to the patron questions, I wanted to answer a couple of questions I see pretty often. One is like, who's in the credits? So I wanted to go through the credits and just say, okay, so the credit song or the regular credits, the credit song is done by the Mystery Bard, however you spell mystery, M-Y-S-T-E-R-Y, Bard, B-A-R-D, Jonathan Mann. And the Mystery Bard was kind of a nickname I came up with, is because he was coming to the show to help us do these Lola jingles for the sponsors, and I thought we'd do a fun way to introduce him, and that's how we came up with the Mystery Bard. And jonathanmann.net, you could check out his music, commission a song from him. Kenny, Scotty, and Jennifer are on our artwork. Also, I say Carl W's a legend, also edits episodes. That's Karlw, Carl, who is also one of our editors. I'm already off topic. Okay, so because Chris Posterson from Sounds Like an Earful wrote the theme song and edits episodes, and he's probably editing this episode. What's up, Chris? And that's Chris Postal from Sounds Like an Earful, soundslikeanearful.com. And you can check out all of the amazing work he does with music and podcasts. And Chris was the first person to work on the show, editing episodes, and he's still with the show. It's a wonderful thing. And then, Carl W., who's not a public, like Carl W.'s a legend, also edits episodes. So Carl W. also edits episodes. We alternate just because it's a lot of work goes into the show. And also it's just a matter of the editing is not enough work to be a full-time job. So it's like, they're trying to edit the shows in addition to tons of other projects they're working on. Okay, Kenny, Scotty, and Jennifer on our artwork. So Kenny is my brother Ken. He does the artwork for the show now. Scotty and Jennifer are Scott is the person who did our original logo and a lot of our original merch and a lot of the banners you see with the podcast. So like most of our original art. Jennifer was Scotty's wife. Now this is the first kind of story. So once upon a time when I was just a baby podcaster and I didn't know what I was doing, Jennifer was a listener of the show, and she emailed me. She said, "Hey, my husband Scott is a really good designer. Maybe he could help you make a logo for the show." So generous. And she introduced us, and I said, "Hey, I know this is this is very early days." And we talked about it, and I said, geez, I don't know, how much time, I was they were very generous with their time. And I was, of course, feeling a little awkward and probably anxious about it. Not needed, though, because they were trying to help the show and give to the show. And then Scott came up with all of the smiling, sleeping face that is so associated with the show and the purples and stuff. And then my brother Ken's been doing stuff for the shows. And then on our ONOUR, artwork. And that was just something funny I came up with a long time ago. I think it's from StarCraft. They say, my favorite, I don't know, there's Reporting for Duty. That's one StarCraft character that I used to click a lot. And you could also, they were saying DUTY, but you could click it a lot and then laugh because they were saying DOODY, or IE, whatever. And I don't think any character said on your honor, but I think someone said something like that I thought was on your honor. And then it rhymed with on our artwork, on your honor, on your artwork. I just like how that sounds, and so I started saying it. So that's Kenny, Scott, and Jennifer on our artwork. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. That's Eric, another listener, generous, who said from Astound, ESTOUND is his company. And another person reached out to me and said, "Hey, I love the show. I'd love to help you with your website." Very, very generous. I really appreciate Eric and his team. Then the Mystery Bard, who we covered. I'm the Mystery Bard. I don't know what comes after that, but it's the Moderators. So there's a listener Facebook group. It's not actually a part of the podcast. It was formed by Alexandra and Laura, and it's 100% volunteer listener Facebook group for people to talk about the podcast. I believe my memory may be correct, but it's probably incorrect. It's they both emailed me separately and said, "Hey, we want to start a forum for the podcast or something." And again, I've always kind of been just trying to keep the podcast coming out. So I said, well, I don't really, it's just not something I can have the time to invest in, unfortunately. And, these would be one of the things I'd be wondering about. And then I don't know how they got introduced to one another, if I did that or Alexandra did that or Laura did that. But then they started this Facebook group and we kind of worked on the guiding principles together. And then they found very quickly that Facebook groups take a lot of work. So then there's moderators, moderators. Alexandra came up with that term. And the current well, probably when you hear this, it'll be the current moderators are Stacy, Sarah, Keith, Julie, and Jennifer. And there's been but a lot of other moderators. Laura, who also formed the group, and Alexandra have been moderators. Summer, they said so Stacy and Sarah, Keith, Julie, and Jennifer. There's another Julie, Lyda, and they just volunteer their time to kind of help create the community that they want to see. Also, Julie, who's a narrator and an early member of the group, was the one who introduced me to the term help me, she used friends beyond the binary. And I said, that is what I've been looking for to open the podcast, so that everyone feels seen and welcome. Because it never sat right with me. I was trying to do this kind of old fashioned, but fun and welcoming intro. And I was like, what about friends beyond the binary? That are listening, that I want everybody to know that this is a safe place for them. And I was constantly kind of wondering, man, what is the right way? And then Julie just used it on Facebook, I think. And I said, that's it. That's exactly, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary. That's exactly the opening for the show. So Julie was the one who guided me towards that, who showed me by example. So I greatly appreciate that. Night Vale Presents is our network, and we're also a member of PRX that helps distribute the show. And that's how we keep the show going behind the scenes is the support of Night Vale and PRX. And people that support the show on Patreon and support our sponsors, buy the merch, support the sponsors. You could do anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. That's what Mystery Bart says. So I think that's it. And the other term I use sometimes at the intro that people don't know is creaky dulcet tones. It's Creeky or something. Dulcet is Dulcet tones, tones, Tones. And dulcet tones are silvery sweet tones that you might hear in a crooner, singing, with a big band or whatever, whoever, crooners, the silver tone was one of a jazz singer that listens to the podcast. He has dulcet tones, Dulcet tones. I, Scooter, have creaky dulcet tones, which is it's a combination of dulcet tones and a creaky door into a voice. That's the tone of the podcast. So that's creaky dulcet tones, pointless meanders, credits to the show. The term, so Dearest Scooter, where'd that term come from? When I first started the podcast, I was a little bit I had performance, I had never done this before. And my CRITIC was really thinking about this and saying, what are you doing? You're not a podcaster. You're not a radio person. And you're doomed. And so I said, how am I going to get this podcast if I keep, how am I going to, just like when I'm trying to take your mind off stuff, I was trying to take my mind off of stuff. And I said, well, what if we have a stage name? My critic said, huh? And I said, it kind of wouldn't be, it would just be for fun. But also I was what are people I work with going to think? Or what if someone goofs on me, and that takes my enthusiasm out of making the show. So I said, it will at least cover us from getting, like, people saying, oh, you started a podcast, like something like that, or, sleep podcast to put people to sleep, huh? And so that's how I said, okay, let's use a stage name. And the name Dearest Scooter was something I tested out in another project, where I was imagining if this is a stretch, but Scooter Libby was responding to Dear Abby columns because they think, like, she would usually close her things with Dearest something. And I thought, like, he was not as nice. Like, he definitely was not. But like, I like that town, like, saying Dearest Scooter, very nice and calming. And so that's where that came from. Is it just how I liked how it sounded? It sounded relaxing to me. And it gave me a little bit of extra space to be present and do the show. Another question that comes up a lot of times is like the voice of the podcast, how it's changed, how it's different. I mean, the podcast is always evolving because I listen to the show a bunch of times, like mixing it and getting it ready for release and after it comes out to ensure it's the highest quality. And also, we're constantly getting feedback. So it's like the show always is like evolving in a very minuscule way. Like over time, over 700-800 episodes, you see, okay, it's evolved much more. Maybe this will be the 800th episode. I don't know. And so, yeah, so the show's kind of just evolved a little bit over time. I guess that's like, that answers that, right? Oh, but we've also, like, changed the equipment we've used, and I've also gotten more and more relaxed and comfortable when I'm recording and just been able to, like, work with a microphone, like, in a way. I don't know. So the show sounds different than we started. One, because I'm calmer, and I have, like, a little bit more microphone technique. I mean, another thing is we have like a little bit better equipment. We're still kind of on the prosumer end of equipment just because moving to like professional equipment would be like a real investment. But also, I don't know with like recording in an apartment that it would necessarily be worth the investment. And then we've also invested in like post-production things just to add like a compression and bring up the volume and bring down the background noise, make sure there's, like, not a lot of sibilance in the tracks or, like, the least amount without taking anything out of the audio. So the voice of the show is always kind of changing, and maybe the pacing, like, kind of changes depending on how present I am or, like, what's going on outside of the podcast, but also, like, the changing of how people consume podcasts. Because one thing that has influenced the show is podcast apps, because a lot of podcast apps like have added smart speed or silence reduction and things, and that changes the pacing of the show, and it's out of my control. So a lot of times I hear from people that kind of say the show's sped up. Like sometimes people have changed the speed of the show, but a lot of times that is like one of those settings in there that cuts out the silences or just barely changes the speed of the show, like, and that kind of impacts the pacing of the show. But some people also are able to, like, slow the show down if they like. Okay, so that's like, voice of the podcast. But the whole idea of the podcast is it's like a mind-body thing. Like, I'm here to keep you company and to respect your space, but to be close enough to make you feel like I'm here to help. And I want the voice of the show to capture that, I guess, would be the thing. Like another question I get that I probably can't totally answer is like, how much time does it take to make the show? In the total amount of time it takes to both make the show and put it out as a free podcast and all the administration to do that and keep in touch with all the feedback we get and questions is like from my end, like 100 hours a week. And it's kind of been a number that's like gone between, 90 and 100. And then there's other work that PRX and Night Vale do every week to support the show. But that 100 hours just includes like my time and the editor's time. And ideally like some staff, like, I don't know, down the road it'll be like a little bit spread out, a little bit better. Yeah, but when you break that down, I guess right now it's probably like 50-50. So 40 to 50 hours a week are spent in production of like 2 to 2.5 episodes. Or maybe, yeah, like it usually takes like 20 hours a week to make an episode. But that doesn't include like the stuff that goes out on Patreon and some of the other new stuff we've done, like transcripts. I mean, transcripts overall, like I use a company to do transcripts, but like the CMS part, like the uploading and stuff. So all told, like 25 hours from start to finish to make an episode, but that's spread over like every week. There's like different, like I'm not working on the episodes that come out that week. I might be finalizing the episodes that are coming out. I'm working on the episodes, like mixing and listening to the episodes that come out in the next week or two. And then I'm writing and recording and researching episodes that are going to come out in like ideally 2 to 3 months. So like usually in a given week, like I'll spend some of my time writing for an episode I'll be recording that week or the next week. Some of the time I'm watching a show and writing stuff about that. That's going to be recorded that week or the next week. Some of the time I'm doing research related to one or two of those things. Then usually recording. In a perfect world, I would record 7 days a week just because, one, it's muscle memory. And two, the podcast, it's just a moving, like it's like whatever, it's on a conveyor belt. So just like I Love Lucy in that famous chocolate scene or whatever, like there always is, like there's always stuff in different stages of production. And there's always hiccups in those stages. So if like I was recording 7 days a week, every day, we would have like tons of content. But because stuff's going to happen, it's like if I like plan on recording 7 days a week, then maybe I'll record 5. And so the way shows are recorded is that one day I recorded the thank yous and the intros. So for this episode that I'm doing now, yesterday I recorded the thank yous, the intros, and part of an interview for another podcast. Then today I warmed up doing some like ad reads. Though sometimes I'll do those in the day after I do the intros. And then I recorded this episode because recording episode, that's like recording the episode portion. Usually those are like 45 minutes edited. Like just sitting down and recording it with breaks and like it's like an hour to an hour and a half to get 45 minutes of to get 45 minutes of edited material of recording, and it just works better. Like and it's like pretty focused. So like I'm right here with you, right? That's the whole goal. And so works better. So in like a perfect week or a regular week that I shoot for, I would record 2 full episodes and then an intro or an episode portion. So 2.5 episodes a week, which means at the end of the month of a regular month, I would have 10 episodes recorded, which means if one month I'm like traveling to a conference or I have a COLD, then I can explain the vacay stuff, but like it gives me a little bit of extra recording stuff. Or if I'm just like not like something, I say, well, I just got really busy with this other podcast related stuff. So what was I going to say with vacay, with like taking time off, like I try to like, because again, the podcast is always coming out. Like I do on major holidays, put out all intro episodes. And I think we put out 6 of those a year. So that's 3 weeks, right, of material. So that means I can take 3 weeks off, like personal time a year. It's kind of hard because I still have to write and there's still stuff coming in. Podcast doesn't ever stop getting released or people don't stop. It's like a constant, it's just like a store, right? Or a restaurant. I think someone used that analogy this weekend at PodX. It's like kind of like running a restaurant. But so, what was I thinking? So you got playing, I don't know, I've learned over the years, it's like having those all intro ones on the holidays. What the main thing about vacation means is that I have to, I kind of have working vacations. I don't have to record while I'm on vacation. Though I do usually, when I'm on vacation, I record stuff for patrons, on location stuff, but then I don't have to worry about recording an episode on vacation, which is like the heaviest lifting of the podcast because it is what you hear. But I also don't have to worry about finding a place that has good sound that I can record in that's going to match up what if there's an intro from when I wasn't on vacation or something like that. But yeah, so to come back, the time budget for the show right now is around 100 hours, plus the help I get from Night Vale and PRX. I think it's probably a little bit more than that as we, just as the show grows, then more people are interested to say, hey, what just more, and I think it's an important part of it is I like interacting with you, the listener. And so having the time to do that and finding ways to do that. And then there's also just the administration of how do we make sure the podcast can keep coming out every week? What are all the process parts of that? And then how do we fund that? Because just because the podcast is free and the consumption end, that's just kind of the way podcasting works is making sure there's money there to pay for the bandwidth that it costs to distribute the show, or getting to where it's okay, all of these 110 hours is funded, and we have a nice cushion, so that's if we don't have so that if a bump in the road happens, Sleep With Me is different in that sense. It's I'm doing a little bit more planning. Because they say, if a bump in the road happens, I want to know 6 to 8 months ahead of time. Okay, this bump happened. Okay, in 8 months, it's going to impact the show, so I could give you plenty of a heads up. But that doesn't, or we could just steer around those bumps in the road. So that's kind of how much time goes into the podcast. That was a question. Okay, so I'm going to go to these questions now. Sin, and this is a very popular question. Does the podcast ever put you to sleep? And the answer to that is it doesn't. When I listen, I'm listening. I don't listen with a hypercritical mind because I've already listened a few times. Oh, this brings up how many times do I listen to the show or how do I listen? Which if you're a podcaster, this might be interesting or not. But I'll answer the question first. So it doesn't put me to sleep. Sometimes I listen at bedtime because someone's asked me a question. And I know that's a quiet time, so I say, okay, let me put that episode on and see what they're talking about. They'll say, did you say kookaburra, chew, Mrs. Robinson? And I say, well, do you know which episode? Because I don't know I don't have no idea. And then they might say, oh, yeah, the one, the houseplant that learned to love. And I'd say, I really said as an episode? That was in my personal memoirs. And I'd say, that wasn't the houseplant named Mrs. Robinson, was it? And they say, no, Ms. Robinson. Okay, good. But I have fallen asleep to the podcast before when I've been working on it because, editing shows or mixing shows, editing shows takes a lot of focus, and so for when I had a full-time job, I would have to edit shows on my lunch break. And you can't multitask. There is a desire to multitask when you're trying to listen to audio, especially when you have a lot to do. You see, well, if I could just respond to these emails and edit this audio, but it just doesn't work that way. The audio demands your full attention. But then if I just ate lunch and it's warm, like sometimes like the show's even slower than it is now. So I have fallen asleep before. And that brings up like, so how's the production, the post-production of the show work? So after I finish recording, what I'll do right now, like, is I'll take out the SD card. I record from a microphone into a preamp into a digital recorder. So I'll take the SD card out of that digital recorder. I'll put it in my computer. I'll look up the file names, and I put that in a spreadsheet that I call tape log, which is just a log of the tape. So it'll say, oh, this is the number. This is the date the file was recorded on. This is what's in that recording. And this is where it's going. So then I'll upload it to one of the editor, like to a drive, like a cloud drive. And I'll put it in a folder that one of the editors has access to. I'll name the folder. And I'll put that in the spreadsheet. Oh, it's on AMA Fun Time or whatever this episode is, like the working title of it. Or, you know, whatever, blankety blank season 2, episode 11. And so then I know where the file is. I know what the file is because it usually just has a code name, right? And my code names are sequential as opposed to date-based because it already has the date on it. So then I just know, okay. And so then the editors, now this is far out. Well, actually, the editors are kind of caught up, not totally caught up, but like, so then the file will probably sit there unless there's a rush on it for a week or two. Or if I'm getting pretty far ahead, like it could be up to like 4 to 6 weeks. And as the editor's working through the projects they have for the podcast, and they'll get to that folder, they'll open it up and they'll edit all the stuff for content. So they'll take out any blank spaces, any retakes, which would be, a retake would go like this. Hey, Chris, I'm going to do a retake here. So just cut out that first retake, but don't really cut it out because I'm just giving you an example of a retake. And I usually I'd raise my voice more, so it would be a little bit jarring, but because it's an example, I won't raise my voice or make a noise or pause or change my tone. But if I don't like something, then that would be, or I don't think it works, it would be, and they'll take out where I like clear my throat or take a lot of breaths or, you know, I live in a busy area. So a lot of times I have to stop for 5 minutes while like a plane goes by or somebody starts mowing or something else weird like that. For an episode or an intro, because it's a sleep podcast, I can never stop recording and come back to it though. So I do have to block out times like that I know I'm going to be able to have time to record the entire intro or the entire episode. I mean, it could get interrupted for like 15 minutes to like 30. But anything more than 30, you know, time of day, my voice is going to change. I'm going to forget, like I'm going to be out of the moment. So I can't even think of any example like where recently I was in the middle of recording an episode. Like if I was like halfway through an intro, I'd just have to delete the intro. And if I was in halfway through an episode, it would just be, I mean, I plan things. So it would probably be, probably have to delete it or try to like, be like, okay, I could give you 20 minutes. What's up? Usually I just plan stuff around it. I know I was going to talk about, I know I was going to talk about listening, but I think I had one more thing about recording that now I forgot. I don't know what it was. So listening. So then the episodes get uploaded to the cloud. The editor will edit it for content or whatever, like a linear edit. The show's always in a linear format because a lot of podcast editing can be non-linear. I mean, whatever, like changing things around. Then this is all done in like a wave format, so uncompressed. Then the editors will like upload their finished files to the same folder, just in another smaller folder with the edited files. And then I'm kind of following the schedule. So it might sit there again for a few weeks. And then I'll be getting ready for the Patreon release normally. And I'll say, okay, what do we have to do on Patreon next week? Okay. That whatever the plant that kissed the podcaster. So, okay, who had those files? Now, sometimes I get mixed up and the editor will say, hey, there's 2 thank yous or something, and I'll have to go into the tape log and fix it. And usually I know because usually Carole does the rush jobs, like stuff like if like I did an episode and for some reason it's like for another podcast, so I want it to come out right away. Carole does those, and he does the TV show style episodes. In post, he does the Tuesday style episodes in serialized episodic stories. So normally it's the first place I would look. I wouldn't even check the tape log unless I couldn't find it. I'd go into Chris's folders and I'd say, okay, here it is, podcaster that kissed the plant. And I would check that the file that it's done, and then I would download those files. I use Transmit to do that just because it's a little bit more efficient than like downloading from a web browser. Same for upload. I think it's like Transmit 4. It's just like an FTP like thingamajig. So then I would download those, and then I would load those into my audio editor, which I use Hindenburg Pro. But you like if you're starting out, you could use Audacity or Hindenburg Journalist. I just use Hindenburg Pro because actually I don't know if you use any of the Pro features on regular episodes, but I need it for some of the Patreon like leveling. Oh no, I use it. I think it like auto levels at -16, but whatever. So I pull everything into there as a project, and I put all the files kind of like in a sidebar, and then I'll save the project, and I'll name it, I name it as SWMP, which stands for Sleep With Me Podcast. And then the episode number, like I'll look on the schedule, I'll say, okay, and sometimes these will change, so the file names will be incorrect, but I'd say 801, the podcaster that loved plants. I might just say plants or podcast love plants or something. And then I'll also add that as a note in Evernote, which is what I use for like the show notes and the titles and stuff like that. And then I'll start mixing a mix. Mixing means taking the separate files from the editor, which would be the teaser, the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary, which on Patreon you get your own version of that. Then the intro, then the episode, and then the theme music. And I'll pull that into the editor, and I'll listen to the teaser. Then I'll put the music in, and I'll load up some meters, and I'll make sure that it's getting mixed at a proper, like that the music and the audio's mixed. And then I'll it'll roll into the intro. Then I'll make sure that the levels on the intro in the teaser match. And then I'll run through the intro and just listen to it. Now, the editors do a great job, so like I'm kind of just listening. Sometimes I'm taking a couple notes. Maybe occasionally I'll say, oh, I don't like the way I said that, and I'll cut it out or something. But I don't know, or like be like, oh, let me just fix I don't know, like I don't know, like if I said that 10 times, I'd say, well, let's just cut out that last sound a little bit better. Or I don't know, some tangent. I say, well, I don't know about that tangent. Let's just cut it out. Then I'll go into the intro and I'll make sure that the levels between the intro and the episode are the same. And I might just check a crossfades so that it's a smooth transitions into the episode. And then I'll listen through to the episode, and then I'll export that as an ad-free. And I'll call it the same as the title, ad-free, as an MP3. And it's I just do 96K, mono, -16 LUFS, and I export that to a folder for Patreon stuff. Then after that, I'll export the story-only version to the same folder, same settings and everything. And so once that's done, then ideally I've set aside enough time that then I can start mixing the segments for the public release. So then the next thing I'd probably do is bring in the thank yous and pull the episode to the right, because I'm going to and link like a crossfade and attach the thank yous to the episode portion and make sure those two levels are matched. And when I say levels, I mean kind of like the volume. Also, the editors have already done like noise reduction and compression and everything. So I don't have to do add any effects or anything like that. Like I don't have to raise the volume. It just may have to barely change to the the gain. But other than that, I don't have to do anything. I mean, maybe like on an off occasion, my mouth was making a lot of mouth noise. I would run like a declicker. Yeah, but it's like it doesn't happen very often. So then, I'll have the episode and the thank yous done. Then I'll take out the Patreon teaser, and I'll dump in the regular teaser, and then I'll mix the rest of the episode. I guess I'm more aware of time. And then I'll just save that project. As we get closer to the public release, I'll do that. Then also I'm taking the Patreon version, I'm uploading it to my transcript service. So then later when the transcript's done, in a perfect world, I could listen to the episode and go through the transcript. And I don't really edit the transcripts, but I'm more like, it just helps with my paying attention. I can listen and read and then make notes of like, okay, before the final release, we have to take that out because it didn't, I don't know, I just want to take it out for some reason. Okay, so I'm just answering the questions about the podcast on here. So if anybody's question didn't get read, it was just because it wasn't. So Scott asked, do I still record in the tiny closet? Yep, I'm in here right now, right under the stairs, 3/4 width stairs, in the Harry Potter closet. And Scott asked, how does Antonio get in here? He's really easy. He's flexible, physically and mentally. So, Pommy asks, how did I start? Where did I get the idea? How did I get to mix creaky dulcet tones? I kind of talked about that. The tangents. I started the show, I had trouble sleeping as a kid, and I used to listen to the radio, and it never put me to sleep. It just kept me company. And so, I never forgot that it just made me feel better and made me feel less alone. And so when I started listening to podcasts, I said, I want to make a podcast like that, what the radio did for me. And I'd already been telling bedtime stories kind of my personal life. So I said, what about bedtime stories, help people fall asleep? And so that's what I ended up making, I guess. Over time. It took a long time to get where we are now. And yeah, it was just a matter of audience feedback. A lot of show didn't become what it is today until today, right? The first 150 episodes were very experimental and very discovery based. And then the next 150, between 150 and 300 were kind of starting to build the foundation of not a house, but an outdoor gathering area or something. And then 300 to 600 were okay, let's start to see what we're is this going to be a sculpture garden or, that'll be over here. Okay, this is going to be the mandala over here, But yeah, the kind of show is it's a lot of writing and prep to enable those tangents and now experience. So all the tangents kind of come from either having writing or having notes or research or knowing the kind of general stopping points for the story so that there's room for it to go off topic. But yeah, so the radio never put me to sleep. It just kept me company. Let's see here. Jane asks, will you ever make an episode just talking about whatever crosses your mind for an hour? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, most of the, Tuesday episodes are kind of like that, but they're a little bit more structured. Just because I feel like I need some sort of structure to kind of keep, so I know where it's going and when it's going to end, and it kind of helped give the tangent some form. So it's kind of like a balance of talking and of having like some loose control, maybe. Heidi asks, where do you get the ideas from your stories? I mean, I guess this is like people say it a lot, but it's like I take constant notes and have pieces of paper everywhere. Tons of ideas I've lost because I write it down on a scrap of paper and throw it somewhere. But I also like carry notebooks and stuff. So it's like constantly trying to keep ideas of things that catch my eye, things that catch my attention, things I can't stop thinking about, things that I'm WORYINGing about, things that make me laugh, things that make me not laugh, things that make me say, why is that? Or, ooh, what happened there? Or particularly anything that would make you say, what if? Like, oh, what if that was with that? So just like a lot of things. Ellen asked, how did Carole King become my muse? That was just because she was constantly, anytime I hit shuffle on this iPod, the algorithm was, the shuffle algorithm had, it was Carole King heavy. So every fifth song would be a Carole King song, even though there's 30 Carole King songs in with 30,000 songs. And I thought that was some sort of spiritual message, and ended up Carole King was here on Earth. So then I said, well, that's interesting too. Yeah. So yeah. Let's see what else. Who's Diane that Simon talks to on the big farm? I mean, that's kind of Simon we don't know, I guess, as a listener. It's in the show TP with Agent Dale Cooper. He would talk to Diane, who in the show was never revealed. Now in the third season, or the remake, it was revealed that it was Diane was real, and she was played by Laura Dern. But there was always just this mystery. So Simon's talking to someone named Diane, through an audio recorder, or something like that. Can you do an all thank you episode? Probably at some point I will. When's the next trip? We're playing with Ray. Hopefully another one coming soon. But there'll be an episode coming out in the next few months. That's already recorded. Mirak says, if money was no object, where would the podcast go? It would definitely be translated into other languages with speakers of those languages with proper culturally sensitive translations in those languages. And then ideally commissioning of stories, producer to do this work because I couldn't, but and then commissioning of stories in those languages. One person I'm particularly inspired by is the team that runs Clark's World. So that's somebody I support on Patreon. It's a sci-fi collection of short stories. So that's kind of what I would say. When you can't sleep, what do? I try to read. Let's see. Who's Bernie the Butterfly? That's I'm sorry. That question was from Norman. Atypical Geek says, who's Bernie the Butterfly? Just a grouchy butterfly. That was my neighbor. Why do you spell out words? Well, just to avoid the word, but it's a word I can't avoid, that everybody's probably thinking of. So it's like kind of like you're taking like depowering the word by spelling it, but not, because it's almost like by avoiding the word, it would bring more attention to it. But by spelling out like things were AFRAID from it, like it saps a little bit of the energy, I think. And it's a little bit, you say, well, it's kind of fun. We're having fun with you, AFRA, however you spell your name. Okay. Yeah, Julie kind of asked, like, about the older episodes. Yeah, the voice is, like, different. There's definitely, like, it's hard to tell from a listener standpoint, but, like, we're using much, like I was more nervous and the equipment was much lower quality. So it was, like, actually picking up less of my natural creaky dulcet tones. And I was, like, probably further away from the mic, and there's more like background hiss that you might not hear, but that like when you take that out, it takes out some of the spectrum. But yeah, they definitely sound different. And some people some people love the old episodes, some people love the new ones, and it's great that we've come this far. How many of the characters were invented just for the episodes? Pretty much all of them. I mean, some might have come from other places a little bit, but they changed. Like Big from the Sky PI was from another general idea I had. But yeah, most of them were like when I was making the podcast, I'd be like, oh, what if James Cash Penny and Richard Warren Sears returned to Earth because they weren't happy about the state of the retail empires? What if Witch decided to become a pirate? Or with Big Pharma, was like, what would it be like? It was just obsessed with the idea of like a really ineffective investigator. And then I said, well, that's a little bit too, I don't know how sleepy that is. So how do we change that and make it, and where do we put them where there's not stakes? Like, because you say, well, if it was on Earth, then it would be like impacting people. So, and if it was their job, there'd be this values thing. So how do we make it like, okay, it's not that they're ineffective at their job. It's like their new job. Oh, and where would it be? Where it'd be fun to not be good at investigating things. But where you're really trying hard. Oh, someplace where you have a new start. Well, how could we make it more dreamy? Ooh, what if it wasn't on Earth? Well, how could we ground it and have some real emotional resonance? Well, what if he needs help? Okay, how can we connect it to like these kids? Oh, okay. Or with Nuns in Space, it'd be like, what would I do if I was on a spaceship with the nuns from my childhood? Oh boy, what if? Well, why would I be? What air? Oh, how would I be? Because they're not the same age as me. And most of them are in the big farm. So they say, okay, well, we just change some rules around. Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff. Oh, that question was from Kay. And the earlier question was from Julie. But yeah, just about like saying what if and then saying, hey, can I get to know you, Witch Pirate Woman? A lot of it about writing it out. Nora asked, do I play in the intros in the same way I play in the stories, or are they made up on the spot? They're mostly made up on the spot, or I'll have notes with an idea for an intro, and then I usually don't have to use those for a while. Like, because if I have notes of like potato peels and pancakes, and I say, could I do an intro about it? And I say, well, maybe about this or whatever. And then when I sit down to record the intro, some other idea will pop in my head. So then like 5 episodes later, I'll do it about potato peels and pancakes. Val asks, like, oh, this kind of goes to a big question. Val is like, you love sci-fi and fantasy. Would you ever do any old episodes, recaps of like shows that are like, people kind of love to dislike them, and I'd say, like, that's a common question of, like, how do I pick the TV shows I pick? And one of the main reason I choose the shows is because I have to watch each episode 5 times, and not just one episode. It's like, okay, like, if I stick with the show, I'm going to watch probably at least 100 episodes of the show over a couple-year period. And so, like, one thing is the show has to be able to stand up without it being uncomfortable, like where there's still joy left in me and the show, after that fourth or fifth viewing, knowing that tomorrow I have to start watching another episode again. And so that weeds in, and then there has to be, like, ideally there's a big catalog. I mean, I broke that rule with Good Place, just because it was so consumable and so joy-filled, and there was such a depth there that that's how I picked the shows. It's like, I've watched an episode of this. How does it feel to watch again? Okay, how does it feel to watch again, taking notes and pausing every 2 minutes? Okay, how's it feel to watch it again after that and either take more notes or be working out or something and watching it again and again, and then sitting down to record? So just kind of like I'm always on the lookout for new shows, but like it's tough for shows to make the cut because of that. Because you say, okay, I just can't, like I don't want to have any, it can't, like it would impact the podcast if I was having, like Worst of Idea of All Time does that, but it's a comedy podcast, so they're able to mine that for what works for their show, for comedy, in performance and insight, where Sleep With Me, it would distract from the sleepiness if I was getting like frustrated, I think, or fed up or something with the show I was watching. Okay, Allie asks, what happens at a live show? I mean, some people at a live show, it's a little bit like the podcast, but I'm there. But yeah, some people sleep, some people chill out, and some people pay attention and have fun. And then, but like I just usually use things that have really gone well on the show, or I'll test out ideas that I think would work with the audience. How did Antonio Banderas become a guest? That's a common question that came from Christine and Justin. Just like I have no idea. I guess one day he just showed up. Like I was looking for some kind of transition between me and the narrator. And because like a lot of times, like my voice is similar to the narrator's voice, I was looking for some sort of intermediary to make that shift less jarring. And for a short time, we used music between the intros and the stories, but that didn't work. Like I got a lot of feedback about that like having a second round of theme music didn't work. And so then at some point we just got Antonio, and it's been a dream ever since. Yeah, let's see. Roberta kind of asked about Frasier, which is a popular, or I Love Lucy. And yeah, that's kind of like Frasier, maybe for one of the holiday episodes. But like I guess like maybe. I mean, I guess, but I haven't got a depth of Frasier yet where I would be guaranteeing that. Let's see, Joe. Okay, these are all personal. How do I balance dulcets and lulling? Just kind of experience and feel. Janet asks, do you, like when you're writing something, does a progression of plot come to mind during the week or while you're working? And I'd say both. Like, yeah, sometimes when you're walking the dog or taking a shower, you realize like a story problem later on. But it is like the work you put in writing in the morning that I think like kind of like sows the seeds for like because if you're stuck, you just kind of write, well, what would they do? Like a lot of times that's what I do. Or why isn't this working? Or why would they make that choice? And I say, I don't know. And then maybe later the next day I figure it out, or maybe I'll go back to writing and figure it out. How do I keep a show at a level that doesn't wake people up? Mostly like staying calm in the moment, and then post-production of leveling and checking levels and everything like that. Oh, Cody asks, like, is there a regimen? Yeah, so, like, I don't have it as much now. Like, I used to do, like, I have to wait an hour or two after I eat to make sure my teeth are brushed earlier so there's no mouth noises. And then I would have, like, a green apple. Like, I haven't done that lately. And then I'll have a cough drop or two. Then I'll usually have a drink, which lately has either been apple cider or coconut water with aloe. Both those are really good for me to keep my mouth from clicking. And then I'll warm up either by doing the thank yous or doing some other recording. That's from Cody. Dan wants a rate to go on a Disney cruise. Sheila was wondering if you would do other tales. I mostly do our own tales or TV recaps or influenced. So maybe if we did another season of whatever that one was with all the, like something similar to what Agatha, where she was teaching, where Agatha was teaching the kids. Let's see. So pointless meanders, do I contemplate them or do they both spill out? Gregory asks. And I would say both. Like sometimes it's more about staying in the moment and having more material than you'll need. Because then if I have more material than I need, then I can kind of go off topic or know where things are going. Yeah, Carrie asks, if fish one of the influences the show? Yeah, I mean, they're constantly, like Carrie said, whimsical, lyrical. And yeah, they kind of are fun and they reinvent themselves and they make stuff for their audience and like a depth to their audience and not for everyone. Lois Anna asks, is there blooper reel? Not anymore. I mean, most of the stuff makes it on the show. Like the stuff that doesn't make it on the show is like boring. And then if there are any bloopers, they are like Sailor Blue. Nowadays, because when I'm like if my mouth's making a lot of noise or someone's mowing the lawn when I set aside time to record or something, like I'll really, but yeah, we used to, like warming up helps eliminate a lot of the bloopers that would be interesting. Yeah, and those are all in SoundCloud. Katie asks, do I take creative writing or literature classes that introduce my style, influence my style? Yeah, I mean, I took like classes at Berkeley City College here. It's a community college. And I took a narrative script writing class and then a workshop version of that class. And then a lot of classmates and I formed a writing group and all of those things. The teacher, Joey Zanders, and then my classmates influenced me, like working in that group and being in a writing group. And then writing with people outside of that writing group really helped me find my voice and just learn about the work of writing. Like just sit down and write every day, share it with people and rewrite it. Will there be any more Girl Raised by a Theme Park episodes? Probably. I mean, I think so. I'd like to, but I don't you don't have it it's not set up for the next thing. But probably in the next 6 to 12 months for sure. But I'm not 100% positive. So I guess I would like to, I guess is the right answer. Patty asked, do I podcast full time? I mean, yeah, in like 2018, I started working on the show full time. Let's see here. We're getting to the end here. But yeah, the show's like supported by the Peel Sports sponsors and the patrons. Thank you so much to everybody that does that. Dan asks, how do you optimize task switching? I guess the main way would be like reducing that. And Dan says, what if you only have 10 to 15 minutes to write? And I'd say that's probably pretty good because if you have 15 minutes, maybe it means it takes you 5 minutes to get into it. And then if you only have 10 minutes, you have 5 minutes of good writing time. And that's enough. Like if you're doing it every day, to start to really build up some momentum and build up those muscles. And if you have 15 minutes, that means you have 5 minutes to warm up, 5 minutes to write, and then 5 minutes to be distracted, right? Let's see. Jen asks, why do I mention Nietzsche in so many intros? Just because I think philosophy can be one of those things that keeps people's thought pattern going at bedtime. And that could be it's something that keeps me up. I say, wherefore art thou? Oh goodness. Wherefore art thou? Am I? Or am I? That kind of stuff. Jen asked about the live shows. Do I have any other live shows planned for any other places? A lot of people ask about live streaming live shows. That's not a possibility just because, one, like, I'd like the crowd to be fresh. I mean, I do record them and release them later. But it's just also like I'm a one person. It's just not like the infrastructure to do live streams of like on location performances is really tough. I don't have any other live shows planned other than the local one. I'm still trying to figure out honestly like how to get people out for the events. I mean, it's kind of been a thing. Like I think like especially with the live show, it's like finding a way for the word of mouth to get out about why would I go to a Sleep With Me live show. Yeah, so if you see a live show by your area, the best way you can ensure there's more is by attending them. And I'm kind of just learning more about the promos and trying to figure out what would be the best way to do it. Because it's like, yeah, right now it just hasn't gotten to the place where it's, other than doing small local shows. I mean, maybe when you're hearing this, it's different. But it's just like the scale of people that would have to just pay the travel costs and the venue cost. It's like slowly getting there. I mean, I've been right when I'm recording this is like a year of doing local live shows. And, like, okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. So, yeah, just keep your eyes peeled. sleepwithmepodcast.com/live show. And ideally, we'll use the Night Vale model of like planning the live show out a year ahead of time. So you say, okay, I'm coming to Boston 2021, these dates. So it'll help us and like sell tickets and make sure the listeners know about it. But that's it. Thank you for this. Is a little supersized episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I really appreciate it. And, I'm here. Couldn't be here without you, without your questions, without your support, without your interest, and without your nods, snoozing off there. Couldn't do it without you, so I really appreciate it. And let me tuck you in there before these thank yous. Thanks. Okay, I want to thank Nicole, Javier, and Marilyn. Thanks, and good night for becoming patrons. Rachel, Robert, and Jane, thank you. Thanks, and good night. Paula, James, and Devi, thanks. Hacken, Corey, and Manta, thank you, thanks, and good night. Martha, Timothy, and Michael, thank you, thanks, and good night. Sam, Helen, and Avery, thank you, thanks, and good night. Stacy, Riley, and Stacy, so Stacy with an R and Stacy with an L with Riley, thank you, thanks, and good night. Tori, Cameron, and Tara, thanks, and good night. Sammy, Cameron, and Tara, thank you, thanks, and good night. Masataba, Annabelle, and Deanna, thank you, thanks, and good night. Abigail, Dan, and Molly, thank you, thanks, and good night. Alicia, Laura, and Rose, thank you, thanks, and good night. Corinne, Anna, and Ariella, thank you, thanks, and good night. Vanessa, Danielle, and Elizabeth, thank you, thanks, and good night. Anna, Darcel, and Elise, thank you, thanks, and good night. Doug, Taylor, and Peter, thank you, thanks, and good night. Will, Ashley, and Brian, thank you, thanks, and good night. Doug, Millie, and Chelsea, thank you, thanks, and good night. Seth, Anthony, and Alicia, thank you, thanks, and good night. Laura, Anna, and Dakota, thank you, thanks, good night. Leslie, Vladimir, and Sharif, thank you, thanks, good night. David, Stephen, and Ava, thank you, thanks, good night. Jacob, M.R., and Ted, thank you, thanks, good night. Eva, Melanie, and David, thank you, thanks, good night. Jacob, Mark, and Ted, thanks, good night. Deborah, Melanie, and David, thank you, thanks, good night. Kevin, Amanda, and Michael, thank you, thanks, good night. Taylor, Benjamin, and Rick, and Deborah and Tyler. Thanks, and good night. Thanks, everybody who supports the show. Sleep With Me literally exists as a free podcast because of people that support the show on Patreon. And the people that support our sponsors. That's how we're able to bring it to you as a free show. So I really, really appreciate everybody that does that. We grow as a show by people sharing their natural experience with the podcast. So thank you so much for those of you that do that. And we're a proud member of Night Vale Presents, one of my favorite Night Vale Presents shows made with in combination with WNYC Studios. Is the Orbiting Human Circus of the Air, and you can check it out at nightvalepresents.com or just search for The Orbiting Human Circus in your podcast app and get ready to enter a world that's magical, that's surreal, full of music, full of mystery, full of joy. Cinematic audio fiction, broadcast from the top of the Eiffel Tower by the great Julian Coster. That's Orbiting Human Circus of the Air on nightvalepresents.com. We're also a member of PRX. You can see everything they're doing at prx.org. There's plenty of other episodes ready to go if you need them, okay? So let me tuck you in a little bit better here. All right, good night.